Hello and welcome to Ani's Short Stories. I hope you enjoy this story. I'm going to try and upload a new story each day. The Curse of Wellow's Witches. The night air carried whispers. Holly Arnold stepped carefully along the overgrown path, her boots sinking slightly into the damp earth. Overhead, the skeletal branches of ancient yew trees clawed at the sky, their gnarled limbs casting twisted shadows under the silver moon. She had heard the stories everyone had. Wellow, a sleepy village on the Isle of Wight, held a dark past. A past that, if the whispers were true, refused to stay buried. The curse began centuries ago when the women of Wellow accused of witchcraft were dragged from their homes, bound in iron chains, and sentenced to death. But they did not go silently. Legends told of their final breath, a curse uttered in unison, laced with venom and sorrow, condemning the village to eternal suffering. The earth would rot. Crops would wither. The dead would never rest. Holly had never believed in ghosts. But belief was irrelevant when faced with reality. She was here to document the paranormal activity plaguing a village hired by an eccentric historian who claimed to have found a way to break the curse. The ruins of the old chapel loomed ahead, half swallowed by ivy and time. Holly felt the weight of unseen eyes watching from the hollowed-out windows. She pressed forward, gripping her lantern, the weak glow barely penetrating the thick fog curling around her ankles. A whisper. A rustle. A voice carried on the wind. "You should not be here." Holly spun, the lantern swinging wildly. Nothing. Only the groan of tree limbs and the distant call of an owl. But something felt wrong. The air was thick, charged with an unnatural energy. Then the ground shifted beneath her feet. A gasp escaped her lips as the earth caved, and she plummeted. She landed hard, dust and decay exploding around her. Dazed, she pushed herself up. The walls around her were smooth stone, slick with moss. A crypt. But not just any crypt, this was something older, something hidden from time. Bones littered the ground, tangled in fragments of decayed fabric. Holly swallowed back bile. The scent of damp rot clung to her skin. Then movement. A hand, fleshless and impossibly long-fingered, emerged from the darkness. Another. Then another. Figures crawled forward, their empty sockets fixed on her, their skeletal forms draped in the remnants of old garments. Witch burial shrouds. "We have waited," a voice rasped, thick with centuries of hatred. "And you have come." Holly scrambled backward, her heart hammering. The witches, forgotten and buried deep, had awakened. Their curse was not broken. It had been waiting. And now it had found her. The crypt trembled, dust cascading from the ceiling as the witches pulled themselves upright. A chorus of whispers slithered through the air, their voices overlapping in an eerie, echoing chant. Holly's breath hitched. The wall seemed to be closing in, shifting like something alive, something ancient. Then a shadow moved at the far end of the crypt. Not skeletal like the witches, but something darker, something worse. A tall figure, its form barely distinguishable from the gloom, loomed near an arched stone doorway. It wore a tattered cloak, its face concealed beneath a deep hood. Holly's stomach clenched. This was no ordinary spirit. This was something that had been waiting far longer. "The betrayer returns," it hissed, its voice crawling over her skin like icy fingers. "Betrayer?" Holly shook her head, panic tightening her throat. "I don't know what you mean, I'm just you carry her blood," the shadow interrupted, stepping closer. "The debt must be paid." A cold realization struck Holly like a physical blow. This wasn't just about the curse. This was personal. Her family had ties to Wellow, distant connections she had never truly explored. But now, standing in the depths of the forgotten crypt, she knew she was linked to the women who had perished here. And the witches had not forgotten. The skeletons advanced, their hollow eyes burning with spectral fire. Holly staggered back, her mind racing. She had to find a way out. The historian had mentioned something, a ritual, an incantation that could sever the ties of the curse. But the words, what were the words? A gust of frigid air howled through the crypt, and Holly turned just in time to see the shadowed figure lift an ancient, rusted dagger. A sacrifice. the final act to complete the witch's vengeance. She had only seconds. Desperation surged through her, an instinct took over. She grabbed the lantern and held it at the nearest skeletal form. Fire erupted, looking at the bones, casting grotesque shadows on the walls. The witches screamed, their voices shrill, ear-piercing. The ground trembled. Cracks splintered the crypt floor. The air pulsed with unnatural force. Holly ran, dodging the grasping hands, leaping over the bones of the dead. The entrance there had to be an exit, then she saw it. A faint glow beyond the farthest tomb, an opening, barely wide enough. She forced herself forward, lungs burning, muscles screaming. The earth shook violently now, the cries of the witches reaching a fever pitch. Just as the shadow lunged, Holly threw herself through the opening. A blinding light consumed her vision, and then silence. She woke, gasping, sprawled in the overgrown graveyard outside the chapel ruins. The moon hung high and disturbed. No whispers. No movement. Only the wind rustling the grass. The crypt was gone. Sealed. Buried beneath time once more. But the curse? Holly wasn't sure. As she rose, brushing dirt from her trembling hands, she felt the weight of unseen eyes upon her. Watching. Waiting. Thank you for listening. I hope you enjoyed this story. Please don't forget to like, and even better, like and subscribe. Thank you very much, and I hope you have had or have a great day.